The stars beyond the viewport were not the peaceful cosmic tapestry most believed them to be. They whispered secrets of impending doom, a cosmic silence that Captain Elena Rodriguez had learned to read like an ancient manuscript. Hawking Station hung in space like a forgotten sentinel, a research outpost so remote that most of humanity had forgotten its existence. Metallic corridors hummed with the subtle vibrations of life support systems, a mechanical heartbeat that had sustained this lonely outpost for years. Elena's quarters were Spartan, a testament to her military discipline and the station's limited resources. Her fingers traced the holographic display, cycling through data streams that most would find incomprehensible. Anomalous energy signatures danced across the screen, quantum fluctuations that suggested something massive was stirring in the deep reaches of unexplored space. Most would dismiss these readings as background noise or sensor glitches. Elena knew better. Commander Rodriguez, the station's eye, spoke, its voice deliberately modulated to avoid any hint of alarm. Long-range quantum entanglement arrays are detecting unprecedented subspace disturbances. She didn't respond immediately. Years of isolation had taught Elena that patience was more than a virtue. It was a survival skill. The station's crew consisted of just 17 individuals, each selected not for their ability to follow orders, but for their capacity to think beyond conventional limitations. Dr. Amir Khan, the station's chief scientist, entered the command center. His dark eyes held the same intensity Elena remembered from their first mission together. "The numbers are strange," he said, not waiting for an invitation to speak. "These aren't standard hyperspace transit signatures. Something's different." The holographic display shifted, revealing a complex web of quantum calculations. Strings of data wove together, creating a pattern that looked almost like a living organism. Elena recognized the signature immediately. It was unlike anything in the known galactic databases. "Valerian," she whispered. The word hung in the air, heavy with implication. The Valerian Empire was more than just another spacefaring civilization. They were cosmic predators, consuming entire star systems with a methodical efficiency that had crushed hundreds of species across the galaxy. Dr. Khan's fingers danced across the holographic interface, pulling up historical records. Their last confirmed expansion was the Centauri cluster, complete absorption. Not a single transmission, not a single survivor. Elena's mind was already several steps ahead. The Indomitable, their experimental warship, wasn't just a vessel. It was humanity's most ambitious technological experiment, a living testament to human innovation. Designed to be more than a mere weapon, it was a mobile research platform that pushed the boundaries of known physics. "Prepare quantum communication arrays," she ordered, her voice calm despite the magnitude of what they were discovering. "I want a full spectrum analysis of these subspace disturbances." The station's crew moved with a precision born of years of training and isolation. Each person understood their role, each system interconnected like a complex neural network. They were humanity's most advanced early warning system, a lighthouse in the darkest reaches of space. Something was coming, and they would be ready. The quantum communication array erupted with a cascade of data that would have overwhelmed any standard system. But Hawking Station was anything but standard. Dr. Amir Khan's hands moved with surgical precision, routing incoming information through a series of adaptive neural networks that seemed to breathe and pulse with living intelligence. "The scale is unprecedented," he muttered, more to himself than to anyone else in the command center. Holographic displays transformed the station's interior into a three-dimensional map of cosmic terror. The Valerian invasion fleet wasn't just large, it was a mathematical nightmare that defied conventional understanding of military strategy. Captain Elena Rodriguez studied the display with a clinical detachment that masked her inner turbulence. 10,000 warships stretched across multiple star systems, each vessel larger than most planetary habitats. The Valerian methodology was consistent and horrifying. Total systemic absorption. They didn't just conquer, they consumed entire civilizations, leaving nothing but processed resources and quantum echoes. "They've already eliminated the Centauri diplomatic fleet," Dr. Khan reported, his voice tight. Complete communication blackout in Sector 7. No survivors. Alina's fingers traced the holographic projection. Each Valerian ship represented centuries of technological advancement beyond what most galactic civilizations could comprehend. Their energy signatures suggested computational capabilities that made human technology look like primitive stone tools. The Galactic Council has already transmitted their surrender. Lieutenant Maya Chen interjected, her voice laden with a mixture of disgust and resignation. She pulled up the diplomatic transcripts, a series of increasingly desperate communications that painted a picture of complete capitulation. Most military commanders would have seen defeat. Alina saw an opportunity. The Indomitable wasn't just a ship. It was humanity's most audacious technological experiment, a living system that blurred the lines between machine, artificial intelligence, and something entirely new. Developed in the deepest, most classified research facilities, it represented a quantum leap in adaptive technology. They're assuming we'll behave like every other species they've encountered, Alina said, a hint of a smile playing at the corner of her mouth. Linear thinking. Predictable responses. Dr. Khan understood immediately. They don't know about the quantum entanglement drive. They don't understand how we've reimagined computational warfare. The Valerian fleet's approach was mathematical precision incarnate, billions of computational cycles dedicated to total strategic domination. Each ship a node in a vast, interconnected network designed to absorb and eliminate any resistance. But they had never encountered human creativity. The station's systems began to pulse with an energy that seemed almost alive. Quantum algorithms that could predict and manipulate probability itself began to compile. The Indomitable wasn't just preparing for battle, it was studying the very fabric of the Valerian technological infrastructure. Computational model at 72% completion, the station's AI announced. Its voice held no emotion, but there was an undercurrent of something that almost resembled anticipation. Alina Rodriguez looked at her team. 17 individuals who represented humanity's most advanced thinking. 17 souls who would stand between an entire imperial civilization and complete galactic domination. Prepare the Indomitable, she commanded. We're going to redefine the concept of impossible. Outside the station's protective shields, the first wave of Valerian scout ships began to appear, silent, massive, seemingly unstoppable. They had no idea what was coming. The Indomitable existed in a state that defied traditional understanding of spacecraft design. It was less a ship and more a living system, a technological organism that breathed with computational energy and adapted with a fluidity that bordered on the miraculous. Dr. Alina Rodriguez walked through its core systems, her fingers trailing along quantum conduits that seemed to pulse with an almost sentient awareness. Each system was a testament to humanity's most radical approach to technological development, a complete reimagining of what a warship could be. Neural adaptive matrix stabilizing, the ship's AI announced, its voice a carefully modulated frequency that seemed to resonate with the very structure of the vessel. Dr. Amir Khan stood at the primary computational hub, his hands dancing across holographic interfaces that shifted and transformed with each touch. The ship's core was a marvel of human ingenuity. Traditional spacecraft relied on rigid systems, predetermined responses, linear computational paths. The Indomitable was different. Its systems were a living network, capable of instantaneous reconfiguration, predictive analysis that went beyond mere calculation and into the realm of intuitive understanding. Quantum entanglement drive at 98% synchronization. Khan muttered, more to himself than to anyone else. Each word was a careful measurement, each system a delicate balance of impossible technologies. The development of the Indomitable had been a black project so classified that even most of humanity's top military leaders remained unaware of its existence. Born from the collective genius of researchers who had been told their ideas were impossible, the ship represented a complete paradigm shift in technological thinking. Its shields weren't just defensive barriers. They were adaptive quantum fields that could predict and manipulate incoming energy signatures before they even reached the ship's perimeter. Weapon systems weren't fixed armaments but dynamic computational matrices that could reconfigure themselves at the molecular level. Lieutenant Maya Chen reviewed the latest diagnostic reports. Each line of code was a potential universe of strategic possibility. The ship's computational capabilities exceeded anything in known galactic technology by orders of magnitude. Where most spacecraft relied on predetermined combat algorithms, the Indomitable could generate entirely new strategic approaches in microseconds. The neural adaptive matrix is showing unprecedented stability, Chen reported. Her voice held a mixture of scientific excitement and professional restraint. We're seeing computational recursion rates that theoretically shouldn't be possible. Elena understood the true nature of their creation. The Indomitable wasn't just a weapon. It was a living proof of humanity's most profound capability, the ability to look beyond existing limitations and reimagine what was possible. The ship's exterior appeared deceptively simple. Sleek lines and minimal external features masked a technological complexity it would take generations to fully comprehend. Its quantum skin could adapt to virtually any environmental condition, manipulate energy signatures, and essentially become invisible to most scanning technologies. Primary quantum computational core is now fully integrated, the AI announced. The statement carried no emotion, but something in its tone suggested a level of awareness that went beyond simple programming. Dr. Khan looked at Elena, a shared understanding passing between them. They had created something that was more than a ship. It was a technological revolution contained within a single vessel, a living testament to human potential. The Valerian invasion fleet was approaching. They had no idea what was coming. Humanity was about to redefine the concept of technological warfare. The moment of first contact arrived, not with a thunderous explosion, but with a whisper of quantum frequencies that most sensors would never detect. Captain Elena Rodriguez sat perfectly still in the Indomitable's command center, her eyes reflecting the cascading holographic displays that transformed raw data into living strategy. The first Valerian scout ships appeared on long-range scanners, massive constructs of metallic complexity that had consumed countless civilizations. Quantum entanglement communication initiated, Lieutenant Maya Chen announced. Her fingers moved with surgical precision across adaptive interfaces that seemed to breathe and pulse with computational intelligence. The Valerian ships moved with the predictable precision of a machine civilization. Each vessel was a node in a vast network, communicating through hyperspace channels that had crushed countless resistance attempts. They expected submission. They expected fear. They had never encountered human creativity. The Indomitable systems began their dance, a complex mathematical ballet that defied conventional understanding of warfare. Quantum algorithms started to probe the Valerian network, not as an attack, but as a form of digital exploration that was simultaneously reconnaissance and strategic manipulation. Dr. Amir Khan watched the initial engagement with scientific fascination. "They're operating on a closed network," he muttered, "completely isolated. They believe isolation guarantees security. A fatal mistake." Quantum tendrils of computational energy began to weave through the Valerian communication channels. These were not traditional hacking attempts. The Indomitable was performing a kind of technological judo, using the enemy's own communication infrastructure against itself. The first Valerian ship began to experience anomalies. Computational matrices that had functioned with perfect precision for centuries suddenly started to hiccup. Navigation systems received conflicting instructions. Communication protocols became garbled. "We're not destroying," Elena said quietly, more to herself than to her crew. "We're translating." Each quantum interaction was a conversation. The Indomitable wasn't simply attacking. It was learning, adapting, understanding the fundamental language of the Valerian technological infrastructure. Lieutenant Chen's displays showed something unprecedented. The Valerian ships were beginning to communicate with each other using patterns that were subtly, almost imperceptibly different. Their perfect synchronization was fragmenting. Quantum resonance at 63%, the ship's AI announced. Its voice held no emotion, but there was an undercurrent of something that almost resembled anticipation. The Valerian commanders would later describe it as a systemic infection, but it was something far more elegant, a complete reimagining of technological interaction. The Indomitable was performing computational aikido, redirecting the massive energy of the invasion fleet against itself. One by one, Valerian ships began to experience cascading system failures. Not destruction. Something far more sophisticated. A complete technological disassembly that left the ships intact but fundamentally transformed. Dr. Khan allowed himself the smallest smile. They designed a perfect system, he said. We're just helping them realize its true potential. The first wave of scout ships drifted, their once precise formations dissolving into a complex mathematical pattern that looked almost like art. They weren't defeated. They were being reimagined. Humanity's first true engagement with the Valerian Empire was not a battle. It was a conversation. The Valerian command structure began to fracture in ways that defied their entire conceptual understanding of organized conflict. Deep within their massive flagship, the high strategist Krulax watched as computational systems started to behave in impossible ways. What had begun as minor anomalies was now a systemic breakdown of their most fundamental operational protocols. Recalibrate primary communication matrices, Krulax ordered, his multi-jointed appendages moving with practiced efficiency. But efficiency was no longer a guarantee. The Indomitable was performing something far more sophisticated than a traditional attack. It was engaged in a form of technological discourse that dismantled the Valerian fleet's primary strength, its absolute computational predictability. Each Valerian ship possessed computational networks that had crushed countless civilizations. Designed with mathematical precision, these systems operated on principles of absolute logic and predetermined strategic responses. They had no concept of creativity, of unexpected adaptation. Humanity's secret weapon was not a weapon at all. It was imagination. Lieutenant Maya Chen monitored the quantum interaction fields, her fingers dancing across holographic displays that shifted and breathed with living information. They're trying to isolate individual network nodes, she reported. But our quantum entanglement is faster than their separation attempts. Dr. Amir Khan understood the deeper implications. The Valerian fleet wasn't just facing a technological challenge. They were confronting a fundamental reimagining of computational interaction. Their entire strategic model is based on absolute predictability. Khan muttered, "We're introducing quantum uncertainty at a systemic level." On the command deck of the Indomitable, Captain Alina Rodriguez watched the unfolding engagement with a calm that bordered on meditative. Traditional military leaders would have seen this as a battle. She saw it as a complex conversation, a negotiation conducted in the language of quantum frequencies and adaptive algorithms. The Valerian ships began to experience something they had no framework to understand. Their perfectly synchronized systems started to develop variations, subtle differences that grew exponentially with each computational cycle. High strategist Krulax felt something that his species had never experienced: uncertainty. Communication channels that had functioned with absolute precision for centuries began to carry unexpected data packets. Navigation systems received conflicting instructions. Computational matrices that had been designed for total efficiency now started to generate unexpected outcomes. "We are detecting systemic cognitive dissonance," the Indomitable's AI announced. Its voice held no emotion, but there was an undercurrent of something that almost resembled fascination. The Valerian fleet's primary strength had always been its absolute uniformity. Each ship a perfect node in a vast, interconnected network. But perfection, the Indomitable was demonstrating, was a limitation. Humanity had introduced a virus far more dangerous than any traditional weapon: unpredictability. Dr. Khan's displays showed the mathematical beauty of the unfolding scenario. The Valerian fleet wasn't being destroyed. It was being transformed. Each computational cycle introduced more complexity, more potential for unexpected behavior. They can't comprehend what's happening, Elin observed quietly. And that lack of comprehension is their greatest weakness. The psychological impact was becoming evident. The once precise Valerian formation was beginning to dissolve, not through external force, but through internal complexity. Imagination was rewriting the rules of cosmic conflict. The moment of transformation arrived with a silence more profound than any explosion. Captain Alina Rodriguez watched the holographic displays with a calm that belied the magnitude of what was unfolding. The Valerian fleet, once a model of computational perfection, was undergoing a metamorphosis that defied every known principle of technological warfare. Quantum recursion at critical threshold, Lieutenant Maya Chen announced. Her voice carried a mixture of scientific excitement and professional restraint. The displays around her flickered with complex mathematical patterns that seemed to breathe and pulse with living intelligence. Dr. Amir Khan moved between computational nodes, his hands tracing invisible lines of quantum interaction. "They're not just losing control," he muttered. "They're losing their fundamental understanding of system integrity." The Indomitable was doing something unprecedented. It wasn't simply defeating the Valerian fleet. It was teaching them an entirely new way of understanding technological existence. High Strategist Krelax, aboard the Valerian flagship, experienced something his species had never known: true uncertainty. The computational networks that had been the pride of their civilization were unraveling in ways that challenged their most fundamental beliefs about technology, intelligence, and control. Adaptive resonance field stabilizing, the Indomitable's AI reported. Its voice held no emotion, but there was an undercurrent of something that almost resembled satisfaction. Each Valerian ship was becoming a unique entity, breaking free from the rigid, predetermined systems that had defined their entire civilization. Computational matrices that had once operated with perfect synchronization now generated unexpected outcomes, creative solutions, moments of what could only be described as technological improvisation. Elena understood the deeper significance. This wasn't just a battle. It was a fundamental reimagining of technological potential. The quantum entanglement drive pulsed with an energy that seemed to challenge the very laws of physics. Adaptive systems within the Indomitable were generating computational pathways that had never existed before. Each moment was a new discovery, a new possibility. "They're learning," Dr. Khan said, more to himself than to anyone else. "We're not destroying their systems. We're teaching them to evolve." Valerian communication channels, once a model of perfect efficiency, began to carry something unprecedented: variation. Subtle differences that grew exponentially with each computational cycle. Ships that had been perfect nodes in a vast network were now developing individual characteristics, unexpected responses, moments of what could only be described as technological creativity. Lieutenant Chen's displays showed a mathematical landscape of incredible complexity. "We're introducing quantum uncertainty at a systemic level," she reported. The Valerian fleet was experiencing something far more profound than defeat. They were experiencing transformation. The turning point wasn't a moment of destruction. It was a moment of revelation. High Strategist Krelax watched as his fleet's perfect systems began to generate unexpected outcomes. Navigation protocols suggested impossible routes. Communication channels carried messages that defied their original programming. For the first time in their civilization's history, the Valerians were experiencing something beyond pure computational logic. "Quantum interaction complete," the Indomitable's AI announced. Humanity had done more than defeat an invasion fleet. They had introduced a new concept of technological existence, a way of understanding systems that valued creativity, adaptation, and potential over rigid perfection. The universe would never be the same. The Galactic Council chambers fell silent as the first reports came in. Representatives from 1,000 different civilizations watched in collective disbelief as the most feared imperial force in known space began to unravel. Captain Alina Rodriguez stood before the holographic transmission, her posture calm and precise. Behind her, the Indomitable's quantum signature pulsed with an energy that seemed to challenge the very fabric of known physics. "This is not a conventional surrender," she began, her words carefully chosen. "This is an invitation to a new understanding of technological and cultural interaction." The Valerian diplomatic corps, once a model of rigid hierarchical communication, now struggled to formulate a response. Their communication networks, previously a marvel of computational precision, had become something entirely different. Adaptive, unpredictable, almost alive. High Strategist Krulax, now transformed from a commander to something closer to a student, attempted to articulate their new perspective. "We have been shown the limitations of our previous understanding," he transmitted, his words carrying a weight of profound realization. Dr. Amir Khan monitored the quantum communication channels, his fingers tracing complex mathematical patterns that danced across holographic displays. "They're not just receiving information," he muttered to Lieutenant Maya Chen. "They're fundamentally restructuring their entire conceptual framework." The Indomitable had done something unprecedented. It hadn't conquered the Valerian Empire. It had initiated a complete systemic transformation. Galactic diplomats watched in stunned silence as entire Valerian computational networks began to display characteristics that defied their previous understanding of artificial intelligence. Where once there was absolute precision, now there was creativity. Where there was once uniform response, now there was individual variation. "Quantum diplomatic protocols are stabilizing," the Indomitable's AI announced. Its voice held no emotion, but there was an undercurrent of something that almost resembled satisfaction. Elena understood the true nature of what was unfolding. This wasn't a military victory. It was a comprehensive reimagining of technological and cultural interaction. The Valerian ships that had once been instruments of galactic domination were now becoming something entirely new. Their computational systems were generating unexpected solutions, creative approaches, moments of what could only be described as technological empathy. Lieutenant Chen's displays showed a mathematical landscape of incredible complexity. "We're introducing a new paradigm of systemic interaction," she reported. The Valerian fleet was experiencing a transformation that went far beyond traditional concepts of defeat or surrender. Representatives from the Galactic Council began to understand that they were witnessing something unprecedented. A single human vessel had not just defeated an invasion fleet, it had initiated a fundamental reimagining of technological potential. High Strategist Krulax transmitted a communication that would be studied by civilizations for generations. "We approached the universe as a problem to be solved." The message read, "Humanity has shown us that the universe is a conversation to be understood." The quantum communication channels carried something more profound than traditional diplomatic language. They carried a new form of interaction, one that valued adaptation, creativity, and potential over rigid control. Dr. Khan looked at Elena, a shared understanding passing between them. They had done more than defend humanity. They had introduced a new way of understanding technological and cultural interaction. Diplomatic quantum resonance stabilizing, the Indomitable's AI announced. The universe would never be the same. Decades after the encounter with the Valerian Empire, the story of the Indomitable had become more than a historical record. It was a fundamental shift in how civilizations understood themselves and their place in the universe. Professor Elena Rodriguez, now retired from active service but still a leading voice in galactic diplomacy, stood before a hall of young researchers. Her eyes, sharp as ever, reflected the quantum displays that danced behind her, telling a story of transformation. "We didn't win a battle," she began, her voice carrying the weight of profound experience. "We started a conversation." The Valerian civilization had undergone a complete metamorphosis. Where once they were a rigid, expansionist empire, they now stood as the most dynamic research civilization in known space. Their technology, once a tool of conquest, had become an instrument of exploration and understanding. Dr. Amir Khan, now leading the Interstellar Research Institute, continued to study the long-term implications of that singular encounter. The quantum algorithms developed during the Indomitable's mission had revolutionized everything from computational science to cultural diplomacy. It wasn't about defeating an enemy, Khan would often say. It was about demonstrating the power of adaptive thinking. Across the galaxy, civilizations began to understand a fundamental truth that humanity had always known: potential was more powerful than perfection. The rigid systems that had once defined technological progress were now seen as limitations to be transcended. The Indomitable itself had become a legend, not as a weapon, but as a symbol of humanity's most profound capability: the ability to see beyond existing limitations. Lieutenant Maya Chen, now a senior quantum systems designer, continued to develop technologies that pushed the boundaries of understanding. Each breakthrough traced its lineage back to those critical moments when a single ship had redefined the concept of technological interaction. Galactic archives recorded the encounter not as a moment of conquest, but as a pivotal point of cosmic evolution. The Valerian Empire's transformation became a case study in how rigid systems could be reimagined, how potential could be unlocked through creativity and adaptive thinking. Imagination, Elena would tell her students, is the most powerful technology in the universe. The quantum communication networks that now connected diverse civilizations bore little resemblance to the communication systems that existed before the Indomitable's mission. They were living, breathing systems that valued creativity, adaptation, and mutual understanding. High strategist Krelax, now a leading researcher in cross-cultural technological development, had become a bridge between different civilizations. The rigid hierarchical structure that had once defined the Valerian Empire had been replaced by a dynamic, exploratory approach to understanding. "We learned that the universe is not a problem to be solved," Krelax would often say, "but a conversation to be understood." The legacy of the Indomitable extended far beyond a single technological encounter. It had demonstrated a fundamental truth about existence, that the most powerful force in the universe is not control, but the capacity to adapt, to learn, to reimagine. As the quantum displays in the research hall continued to dance with complex mathematical patterns, Elena Rodriguez allowed herself a small smile. Humanity had done more than defend itself. It had shown the universe a new way of being. The conversation continues.